all the information of the key story points in your reality. You can read The Hero's Journey by Joseph Campbell. You can read almost any book written about writing screenplays. They all touch on the idea of the resonant points of story structure that exist within your psyche that need to be accessed when telling a story so that the story rings true within your mentality, within your psyche. So refer to any of those kinds of books to explain the concepts of story structure. They also are representative of ideas in your actual life path that make your life relevant and explain the idea of why you go through processes to learn lessons. So reading about the idea of story structure in some of those books can help you understand why you choose to go through physical reality processes to gain more insight and create more discovery about who you are and grow as a soul.
And this person is saying that they're a bit confused about how two things you mentioned work together. On one hand, you said that when we speak with you, we are essentially speaking with ourselves. On the other, you said you're observing us to see how we evolve and determine if we're ready for open contact. From a human perspective, these ideas seem contradictory. Can you help clarify this?
Yes, they are not contradictory in the sense that I am a reflection of what your higher mind would say to you. So in that sense, speaking to yourself means that the conversations you are having with us are somewhat representative of the kind of answers you would receive from your higher mind, from your own soul. We are a representation of that. At the same time, we are our own person and therefore can have a separate observational regard for what it is we are watching, what it is we are observing. We can function in both ways. We are a multidimensional being, just like you are. We have our own identity and can observe as ourselves, and yet at the same time can perform the function of being a reflection of the kind of conversations you would have with your own higher mind.
Thank you.
Yes.
As you've encouraged us to start conversations with those on the other side, I've been following my highest excitement by trying to engage meaningfully with family members whose views I deeply disagree with, especially when those views seem rooted in prejudice or hatred. I genuinely want to respond with curiosity and understand their perspective, but my reactions of sadness, pain, and ultimately disgust often show on my face and shut down the conversation. I recognize these emotions stem from my own thoughts and beliefs, but I'm unsure of how to identify the limiting beliefs that are preventing me from fostering genuine dialogue and connection. How can I shift my perspective to keep the conversation open despite the hurt that I feel?
The hurt you feel is based on the idea that you are judging yourself based on what they are saying, that you feel that what they are saying you're taking personally, as if it disqualifies or invalidates the beliefs that you have, just because they have contrary beliefs. So don't take it personally. Allow yourself to understand that they can make whatever statement they wish to make. It has nothing to do with invalidating the beliefs that you hold to be true for your reality. So the only reason you feel hurt is that in some way, shape, or form, you are thinking that what they are saying is invalidating the beliefs that are relevant for your reality.
Okay, and can you explain the concept of free will of others in the context of the multiverse? For example, if I wish to be in a universe where my marriage is working, where is the boundary between my being able to access that universe, which should be limitless, and my partner having his own free will of not wanting to, which is a limitation?
Well, it can be a limitation, but sometimes it's also representative of what is and isn't vibrationally relevant or compatible for someone's life path. So you don't necessarily have to look at someone's differences as a limitation if they are actually truly understanding what is relevant for their life path, which may not necessarily mean that they need to continue the relationship with you. However, there may be some small degree of insistence that it has to work out the way you want it to work out. Nevertheless, the idea is to explore whether or not there is enough common ground or whether your differences are vibrationally compatible with one another, that you can be willing to reflect to each other what you need to know to become more of who each of you are. If you're willing to do that, if you're both willing to do that, then the relationship can continue in a certain way. But if one or the other, for some reason, whether it is a limitation or not, is simply not willing to move forward in reflecting to the other what you need to become more of who you are, then it is something that may need to be discontinued. And that could be the most loving thing to do, to allow each of you to attract into your lives what you actually need to have reflected to you by another individual who will help you become more of who you are, rather than struggling to make something work that each party is simply not capable of vibrationally finding enough compatibility to do so.
Okay, and can you talk about the energy of resistance and avoidance? If we find that we are resistant about a particular path or teaching and not sure if it's right for us, is that a sign that it actually is part of our path, or can we have resistance to things for healthy reasons too? How can we tell the difference between something we are avoiding that is good for us and something that we are resisting because it might not be good for us?
This goes back to the old idea of understanding yourself clearly enough to know the difference between what is representative of your passion and what is representative of anxiety within you. You have to know yourself more clearly. The idea isn't that difficult to tell the difference when you are honestly willing to look at why you believe what you believe to be true. So the idea is to ask those questions and to understand that when you recognize that something is not vibrationally compatible with you, it's not about resisting it. That's not the energy that you would experience. You would simply recognize an alignment within yourself that is simply telling you that this is not vibrationally compatible with your life path or with who you truly are. You won't feel a resistance to it. You will simply not be able to relate to it in a certain way. So that's a different feeling than experiencing resistance. If you actually experience the energy of resistance, then that may be a sign that you're actually avoiding something you need to explore or you need to look at. So the energy of recognizing something that is not relevant for you, not vibrationally compatible, is different kind of energy than the energy of resistance, which can build up in your body in a very different way. So if you find that you do feel that resistance, let yourself move forward a little bit to explore why that resistance is there, because you may be avoiding something that you really need to look at. If you get to a point in examining all that and exploring all that and looking within yourself more clearly and get to a point where you realize that it has been about simply not being vibrationally compatible all along, then fine. The energy will change from the energy of resistance to simply the energy of recognition that this is not vibrationally compatible with who you prefer to be. It will feel very different. It will feel more like a release. It will feel more like a lightening of your energy rather than the energy of resistance.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Um, can you let me know where the monkey mind, the chatter mind, or stream of thoughts comes from? Those thoughts are constantly streaming through the mind, especially during meditation. This person just cannot calm the monkey mind down.
Well, it comes from belief systems. It comes from the way you handle the belief systems that are fed to you by the subconscious mind, that come from the unconscious mind. Remember, the subconscious is the gatekeeper. The unconscious mind has all of the knowledge of all the beliefs that you will face, all of the challenges you will face in your life, to let go of beliefs that don't work for you. It feeds those beliefs to the subconscious mind, which acts as the gatekeeper and determines when you are ready to look at a particular belief, and so doles them out to you when you are ready to face and explore them, when you're ready to go through the process and the challenge of understanding how to learn the lesson from those belief systems and let go of the ones that are vibrationally not compatible with who you prefer to be. So when you are allowing yourself or not allowing yourself to let those belief systems be explored, when you're actually trying to push them away, they will come back as a very strong echo, and you will not be able to silence them until you actually face them and use them in a more positive way to find out why you are experiencing that chatter that you're talking about, because they're usually representative of beliefs that you're unwilling to face because you think that you should be in some way, shape, or form not having to face them, not having to listen to them. It's important to listen to them to see what they're saying about the challenges and lessons that you need to learn from what is going on, what is echoing in your mind. So when you do a meditation and that chattering starts, don't try to get rid of it. Don't try to silence them. Explore them. What is this chat all about? Does it lead me to a belief system that I need to let go of or that I need to simply be aware of? So that again, it's a process of knowing yourself. So don't try to expunge them. Try to listen to them and explore them one at a time to find out what the chattering represents.
Okay. By following the formula, being an example of love, compassion, joy, kindness, and service to all, while trusting the synchronicity of each moment, will this naturally lead us to the best possible outcome for first contact?
Yes, simple as that. Yes.
And I guess this may be a second part to the question. What if having an expectation was the reason for the action was exciting to begin with, or adds to the overall excitement? For example, if I'm planning to release a new song, part of what builds the excitement is how many people listened to it or liked it. I'm having a hard time imagining how I would be able to act on my passion for its own sake. I would really appreciate any clarity on this.
Instead of focusing on the idea of the number of people, allow yourself to focus on the knowledge that the people who need it will receive it and receive benefit from it and joy from it. Don't focus so much on the number. Remember, it's not about quantity, it's about quality, as you people say. Therefore, get excited about the quality of what you are creating in its pure form, because you know that because it contains high vibrational quality, because it has been created from your joy, your imagination, and creativity, it will reach who it needs to reach and allow them to also match that vibration and experience joy and inspiration in their lives too. So focus on the quality, not the quantity.
Okay, and this person would like to know, how do I know when I have truly changed my belief? I'm working on self-worth, and I can say I'm worthy and even believe it, but my circumstances are still the same. I feel stuck and I don't know what to do about it.
Remember, it's not about circumstances that tell you you've changed. It's about whether you respond differently to the same circumstances that tell you that you've changed. It shouldn't matter whether the circumstances change. If your response to it has changed, you will still get a benefit from it by staying in the positive energy. This is why this is the fourth step of the formula and why it's so important to remain in a positive state no matter what happens. Remember, it's not about what happens, it's about what you do with what happens that makes the difference. So if you're expecting the outer reality to change because you say that you've changed, you are working it backwards. It doesn't matter if the outer reality changes, because the outer reality will have only the effect on you that is determined by the state of being you create. And the state of being you create is your response to that circumstance, even if that circumstance remains the same and doesn't change. It's your response that needs to change, your energy that needs to change, your relationship to it that needs to change, and is what determines you have truly changed, not whether the outside changes or not.
Okay. And this person is interested in letting go of limiting beliefs. He says, or she says, I've been applying your principles recently and feel much better overall. I've noticed, however, that I still have limiting beliefs that I'm holding on to and want to explore them further to let go. This has been my focus for the past few months. Sometimes, though, answers don't come or the same limiting belief keeps resurfacing. How can I ensure I've successfully let go of a belief? What would be the sign that it's resolved?
The sign that it's resolved would be that the belief no longer makes any sense to hold on to, because you don't hold on to beliefs that don't make sense to do so. Again, this goes to what we have said about the motivational mechanism in humans. You only hold on to beliefs that you believe actually serve you. Even if you know intellectually that they don't, you must believe the alternative is worse, or you wouldn't hold on to the beliefs that you have. It must be that you view the belief that you're holding on to, even if you know it's not to your benefit, as being safer as a belief, more familiar as a belief, easier to deal with than the alternative should you decide to let it go and change your belief. So you have to find out what it is you're afraid would happen if you actually changed the belief. If you have a belief that says the alternative is worse, then you will still hold on to whatever it is you're holding on to that you know may not be serving you, but you believe serves you better than the alternative. So again, it takes self-investigation and transparency to understand why you're holding on to it. And it's usually because you believe that to let go of it or to go into another belief system, that something worse would happen than what you're already experiencing. So you just need more and deeper investigation of yourself as to what you are afraid would happen if you did in fact change your belief.
Okay. And this next set of questions is about the drones that
Yes,
have been happening recently.
we
So
will
I'll just,
answer them all in one statement. Most of the drones that you have been seeing have to do with man-made devices, human-made devices that are surveilling, observing, and protecting against incursions from others with ill intent. Some of the drones may be extraterrestrial vehicles disguised as drones, but many of the drones, even the ones that are human made, military made, that are involved in this surveillance and observation, may still be being coordinated by extraterrestrial beings in terms of the information that is being gathered by the drones that is important for preventing others of ill intent from doing actions that would be detrimental to many of the societies on your planet. So it's a very complex and involved operation that involves not only your military, but also extraterrestrials on another level to help coordinate information that provides the protection necessary to prevent actions that have ill intent from happening in your world. And that is all we will say at this time.
okay. Well, that's helpful because I'm sure a lot of people are wondering what is going on.
That is what is going on.
Okay, so moving along here to some additional questions. Here's an individual saying that they did the sacred circuits for 3 months, but they felt no positive changes. I tried talking with them, but received no communication back. I tried looking at them and taking their shapes, and I also tried looking at them while solely functioning on focusing on the energy. I was feeling something from each symbol. And then I noticed that the symbol's energy lasted for a few hours or less, but then it wore off. What is the best way to use the sacred circuits to have impact fully on transformation?
It appears that you are only using them energetically and not connecting the changes that they make in your neurological circuitry to the idea of then performing physical actions in service to humanity after you utilize the circuits. That's what they're for. It's not just about sitting there and trying to feel changes in your energy. It's about using the circuits to rearrange the energy paths in your body, the neurological paths in your body, to make you more superconductive, hyperconductive, of higher frequency energies, and then to take the actions that are necessary to act on your passion in service to humanity. So it's a two-part process. It's not just about meditating on the circuits, because then you're not really flowing the energy that the circuits are helping you change within yourself in a way that is pragmatic and grounded in your physical reality. So it's not just about experiencing energy changes, it's about putting them into action.
Okay, thank you. How do we exist in the here and now, the present moment, and still be there for our future selves? For instance, how do we stay tuned into the present channel and still be able to make long-term, sometimes difficult choices that will benefit us later, but may be difficult in the now?
Again, the challenges that you face in the now determine what you will experience in the next now, which is what you call the future. Stay present with the challenge. Again, follow the formula in dealing with any challenge. It will allow you to set up the vibrational patterns that will allow you to experience the next present now in the way that will continue to move you forward in a beneficial way. That is what you do.
Okay, now this question is about free will. You teach us that we have some free will about how we will live our lives and explore our themes, and have given the analogy that it's like getting to choose how we walk down a hallway. But some other teachings say, well, really, all of this is just one non-dual thing happening, and there's not even any self or doer to choose anything, and that free will is an illusion. Can you help reconcile this?
You have free will as a soul, you have free will as a physical entity. On a certain level, you could say that it is a non-dual experience, but on the physical level, that is not the case. Because you have given yourself the opportunity to have 2 points of view, that of the soul or the higher mind, that of the physical personality, you then have the opportunity to express different forms, different expressions of free will. The free will of the soul that chose the life path, the free will of the physical personality that determines how you will live that life path. So the idea that it is an illusion is true only in the sense that the idea of an illusion is simply another way of saying it's a projection that gives you an opportunity to have a certain kind of an experience. Many people use the word illusion in the sense that for some reason, just because something is an illusion, that it has no meaningful content, that it means nothing. This is not the case. That is one definition of an illusion in a certain context, but it's not the way we're using the word at all. The idea that your physical reality is an illusion doesn't mean it doesn't have the meaning that you give it, and doesn't mean it isn't a worthwhile experience that helps you learn lessons and helps you grow. It simply means it's a technique of consciousness projection that gives you a scenario in which you can learn those lessons and experience that growth and those processes that lead to it. So please do not misunderstand that when we use the term illusion, that doesn't mean it's worthless. That doesn't mean it's negative. That doesn't mean it doesn't serve a function. That's not the way in which we're using the word illusion.
Thank you. This question is, has everything there is already been created? So how has everything there is already been created in all dimensions, and we are just experiencing it over and over again? But since we make ourselves forget, it feels like we're playing a new game for the first time. Or is all that isness still constantly expanding?
As we have explained, in a sense, that is so. But the idea is that the structure, yes, already exists, all of it. It's your relationship to it, your experience of it, and your perspective of it that expands and allows creation to grow. So it's both. The structure already exists and is infinite, but there are certain portions of it that are relevant for your life path, and your relationship, your perspective, and your experience of that structure relative to your life path is what allows you to discover a new perspective of yourself and to grow. It's the way that all that is has of experiencing itself in all the ways that it can. So it already exists as a structure, but it doesn't necessarily already experience itself in all the ways that it can. That never ends because it's all based on how you decide to experience your relationship to that structure, your experience of that structure, your perspective of that structure that continues to allow all that is to experience new perspectives of itself, new awareness of itself, new expansions of itself within the structure that never changes.
Quite amazing.
Yes.
This individual is asking a question about weight. You've said that our soul comes to Earth to have a particular set of experiences. For instance, it seems to me that my soul wanted to experience being overweight and unhealthy. Now, my human self disagrees with that and really wants to be healthy. Who wins here, the soul or the human body? Is it possible that the soul's desire experience is so strong that the human body can't change it or move to a timeline where the human's preferred experience, regardless of how many permission slips the human uses?
Usually, when the soul determines a particular kind of experience as a starting point, usually, that usually allows the physical being to use that in order to create a transformational experience to go in a different direction. So the idea may be that there is resistance within your belief system that prevents you from transforming this in order to lose the weight that the soul is giving you as a starting point to have a challenge to face and overcome. It is relatively rare that the soul would choose something in that context, though not impossible, that is impossible to change. And if that is the case, then there is purpose to it that teaches other people some different kind of lesson relevant and relative to their interactions and relationship with you who is unable to lose that weight. This is very rare, but the idea is that it's not impossible, that the weight needs to be maintained in order to teach other people a lesson in terms of how they relate to people who have that kind of weight. However, it doesn't mean that you cannot change the circumstance if you get in touch with the idea of what that symbol that the soul has chosen represents and what lessons can be learned by others by maintaining it, then you may be able to transform it and yet still create a situation that allows people to change the way in which they relate to people who do have the excessive weight by forming some kind of an organization that will allow people to learn to look at people like that in a different way, to have compassion and empathy for the challenges that they're facing, and to perhaps help them learn different ways in which they can transform that challenge. So the idea can be used in a variety of ways. It doesn't mean you can't transform it, but it may mean you have to figure out a way to still help people understand the same lesson that maintaining the weight would teach them if it is for the purpose of other people learning lessons from a person who has the excessive weight. So you can lose the weight if you can still figure out a way to help people learn the same lesson when you don't have the weight.
In continuation with that idea, it appears that being of service is some of the highest vibrational states one can be in.
Yes.
And the idea that humans as personalities prefer to experience positive, fun, exciting experiences of reality. And yet, as part of their soul contract, they may have come in with a willingness to experience great suffering in order to assist others. How do you
Yes.
reconcile those two perspectives?
Because the idea is that what you call suffering can be looked at in a different way, where it can be transformed simply into the energy of the lessons that others need to learn, so that the person experiencing that particular choice of the soul doesn't actually have to experience it as suffering, even though others may perceive it as such. So this requires a great advancement of the energy of that person and the awareness of that consciousness to learn how to still give off the vibration of the lesson that others may need to learn through perceiving them as suffering while they themselves do not suffer.
And perhaps an example of that would be what happened with Christopher Reeve when
Yes,
he portrayed being Superman and
yes,
then had that experience that changed his entire existence as a
yes,
personality.
yes, that can be some of it. So when something like that gets to a point where it seems inevitable and it's unlikely to change, then it can be seen perhaps as a lesson for others to learn how to relate to it in ways that he may have demonstrated that allow him to overcome what most people would consider to be the limitations of that physical experience.
So it takes a lot of vibrational uplifting in order to really understand these ideas.
It takes the advancement of the energy of that personality to more closely match the frequency of the soul itself. Yes.
Wow. And I guess the animals kind of demonstrate that because if they come from the angelic realm and they're willing to experience what we perceive they experience here on Earth,
Yes.
that would be a prime example of what you're speaking of.
Absolutely, because they allow people to become more sensitive to the idea of what appears to be their suffering, so as to change things in terms of your relationship to the idea of animals, so that you can be more supportive, more loving, and more kind to them at the same time, learning how to do that for yourselves. They are great teachers.
Yes. Um, if we are creating our own reality experience, and if things in our world, including you and other spiritual teachers, are part of the illusion of physical reality, how can we trust you or any teachings in the physical world to be accurate and not just more illusions or reflections of our own beliefs or something like that?
This is what we said before. Many people on your planet are using the word illusion as if it has absolutely no value, as if it is simply nothingness, as if it is a trick, as if it is a deception. That's not the way we're using the word illusion. The way we use the word illusion is simply a description of the idea that what you're experiencing as a physical reality is a projection of your consciousness. Let me give you a simple example. When you go and look at a movie, in a sense, the movie is an illusion. You're not actually looking at people in real life, so to speak. You're looking at something that is a projection onto a screen. Yet the story has great value, can even be very emotionally moving to you, can help teach you lessons. So you could say, well, the movie is an illusion, but it has value, it has worth in the experience that you are taken through by watching that movie, by relating to the characters in the movie. Again, another form of story. So the idea is not to invalidate the concept of the word illusion in the context that we are using it. It's just a way of describing that you're using a particular device to experience the meaning you're giving into life, the experience of the lessons you need to learn from life, and the processes that you need to experience for your soul's growth. So it's up to you to determine through your synchronicity that what you've attracted yourself to In this experience, whether you are understanding it to be an illusion or not, is simply your way of reflecting to yourself what you need to know to determine what's true and what's not true for you as a being. So please do not devalue the concept of the illusion. It's nothing more than the device you're using, like a movie, to tell yourself a story that helps you learn lessons and helps you grow and helps you understand who you are relative to the big picture in life.
Okay, thank you. The number of humans who are aware of your transmissions is small compared to all the humans on Earth. I might also note that those who are attracted to Bashar are somewhat of a different animal, so to speak, compared with the average humans. We are not exactly representative of the average human. In Echoes of Sedona, you seem to express that the timing and the style of open contact will be based on the responses of those with awareness of your transmissions. However, open contact will be global. Why is there so much focus on the choices and responses of a limited number of humans that interact with you, Bashar? Would the Interstellar Alliance councils not base their decisions on larger behavior patterns among an entire global population?
We are to some degree laughing because you are assuming that we're the only ones delivering information. There are many beings delivering this information across the globe. We are simply referring to the kind of information that is being delivered, not just through us specifically and those that relate to us specifically, but those that relate to all information being delivered by a variety of sources and entities around your globe. So obviously, this is a global phenomenon because there are many, many beings like myself and other kinds of spirit entities and so on and so forth that are delivering and downloading information to many people on your planet. So it's not that you are only limited to those who know about this particular channeling or this particular source of information, but all similar sources of information around your entire planet.
Okay. I have heard this person is saying that I have heard Bashar's voice around 7 or 8 years ago, and it made me uncomfortable, and I shut it down. I am now more comfortable. What has been the shift and why?
Well, you have raised your vibration to be more vibrationally compatible with the information that we deliver. It's as simple as that. You've expanded your bandwidth, you've grown, you've learned, you've changed. And now, right now, at least, then the idea of our particular vibration is more vibrationally compatible with where you are at in your particular path.
Okay. And why do you always say how exciting when even a person describes a negative experience they've experienced before? Can you include all reasons and tensions behind it and all facets of it?
It is our attempt to encourage you to approach all challenges, whether you perceive them as positive or negative in your life, with curiosity instead of defeat. Instead of labeling them negatively, the idea is, yes, of course, you can recognize that something may be created out of a negative energy, but by approaching them in a positive way with curiosity, by saying, oh, this is an exciting challenge. I recognize it may have been created from a negative point of view, but still in my life, I know I can get a benefit from it if I approach it from a positive state of being, a positive energy. So we are attempting to encourage you to approach all challenges, whether they were created from negativity or not, with curiosity to know how can it serve you and what lessons can you learn that would actually benefit you. That's why we say how exciting, because it's an opportunity to find your own self-empowerment relative to the degree to which that particular circumstance seems to impact your life. That's a direct one-to-one relationship to how powerful you are, to the response and reaction you have to the magnitude of that circumstance.
Thank you.
Yes.
Why does the transformation happening on Earth affect more than just our human world, as mentioned in your previous transmission, the formula?
Why do the things that are learned in universities on your planet leak out to form information that is valuable to the entire planet? The idea is the same. You are a very valuable school, a very unique school. And the lessons that you learn can help many other civilizations because of the degree and depth to which you explore the transformation of limitation. So those lessons are noticed and recognized and observed by other civilizations who may be able to use the lessons you're learning for their own realities, their own life paths as well. All life paths are intertwined, not just the life paths of all the humans on your planet, but the life paths of all of the extraterrestrial beings that are also engaged with observing your planet. There is synchronicity in that. So the idea is we are excited by the concept of what you are learning because it informs the totality of all of the beings that are in some way, shape, or form engaged with what it is you are learning on your planet.
Seems that the universe is very focused on learning.
On expanding. Yes.
That's what learning is. It's
Learning is
expansion.
expanding. Learning is growing. Yes. It's being more of what you actually are as source, experiencing more of what it is to be source, to be all that is.
So since
Expansion is the natural state of self-awareness. You want to know more about what and who you are. Who am I? It's the question you all ask on an individual basis. But you see, that's the driving engine of all that is. Who am I?
so that's why it's just built into the fabric of existence.
Yes.
The drive to expand, to learn, and
Yes.
the
I'll
universe
put it
is
in a linear fashion, in a linear perspective. Again, this does not mean there was a beginning to this. But in order for you to simplify this concept, the idea is once you become self-aware, then the next question is, who am I? What is it that I am? I am that I am, but what does that mean? What is that experience? Who am I? And for all that is, the answer is infinite. So you experience everything, never ends. It never ends. Who am I can have momentary answers for all that is, but none of the answers are ever the end, are never definitive. There's always more because it's infinite. And so that's the natural forward momentum energy that you experience to find out, who am I? How do I grow? How do I expand? What do I need to discover? What am I? Who am I? It never ends.
so as human beings, when we experience learning and an aha moment, those kinds of exciting experiences, there's some sort of a serotonin release that
Yes.
happens that creates a reinforcement of that idea. But
Yes. Now
that wouldn't be the
just imagine a constant stream of aha moments for all that is, forever, constant. And you will have the smallest understanding of the degree of ecstatic explosion that all that is experiences in all of those aha moments of self-discovery, self-experience, and self-realization.
it's wonderful that the universe is constructed that way.
Existence is constructed that way.
It's really a great gift.
It is the nature of all that is.
Ah. Let's see, one last question here. You've said that we can change the past because we create the past from the present. But you've also said that one of the things that you'll give us is our full history.
Yes.
So what is the point if we're constantly changing the past? Are there certain time periods that are more relevant to remember, and what time periods are not relevant?
you will be given the history that is relevant for who you are at the moment it is given to you. That will reinforce the idea of your forward momentum. Understanding the past that is relevant for who you have become in the present is what will help you move forward into what you call the future. So the history you will be given will be the history that is germane and relevant for who you have become, that is capable of receiving that history.
And I guess, well, this will be our last question. What is the purpose of all the information you share about ETs, hybrids, open contact, and similar topics? I've heard people suggest that that kind of subject matter is just part of the illusion of the world and could even distract you from truly waking up and freeing ourselves from suffering. But is it part of a process of awakening? It feels like it could be exciting and a step toward moving in a positive direction. Yet I sometimes wonder if it's better to focus on enjoying our experiences here, or if it's more important to prioritize fully waking up from the illusion altogether.
Again, be cautious how you are using the word illusion. Nevertheless, yes, of course it's important to be more realized yourselves, to focus on the idea of becoming more of who you are. You do not need us to do that. But it is possible that some people can use the idea of extraterrestrials as a distraction to keep them from actually being who they are. Again, anything can be used in a positive or a negative way. But the idea of becoming more aware of us is also simply the end result of becoming more aware of yourselves, because we are all interconnected. So when you become more of yourself by following the formula or whatever intuitive path allows you to be more of who you are, it is ultimately, in a sense, for most people, inevitable that you will also discover that there are others also on that same wavelength, and that you will attract yourselves to them. Therefore, as long as you are focused on the idea of following the formula to be your true self, that will usually inevitably include the discovery of others who are also operating on a similar wavelength, such as us. So one thing just leads to another, but you don't have to focus on us. If it does distract you from being yourself, then by all means focus on being yourself, because you do not need extraterrestrial contact to perform the important act of being yourself. We are simply saying that for most people, the act of being yourself will inevitably lead to the connection to others of similar wavelength. So, does that help you?
Yes, it does. Thank you so much from all of us for your explanations and helping us understand so much of what is happening. So thank you.
It is again our passion and our pleasure and our unconditional love to you all. So now allow yourselves to continue to move forward as we move forward together in whatever way, shape, or form you so prefer.